There
hmm
we go. The robot lady has ascended and allowed us to continue. So, joining me this morning, or for yourself, I'm guessing this evening, is Brandon from the mighty metalcore titans Atreyu.
I
Brand,
like that title. That was a good title.
thank you. I had a whole bunch of something me and Atreyu. I had some really bad dad jokes lined up for that, but I thought I'd just give it, I'll just give it the stock standard intro.
It was great. Loved it. Loved it.
Well, I've rolled out the journalistic welcome mat, and my first question off the rank is, "How are you going, Brendan? How are things in the Atreyu camp at the moment?"
Very good. I mean, we are sort of about to embark on this what will be the Curse World Tour, and we've been in the studio a lot. We've been very busy bees, so it's a fun time in Atreyuville right now.
Yeah, I'll bet. I bet there's a lot of with the 20th anniversary of the album coming up. I bet there's a lot of reflection and excitement going on with you guys at the moment,
For
bringing that
sure.
out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How have your most recent shows been going so far?
They've been great. I mean, we did South America a couple months ago. That was the first time we'd ever been down there, so that was a lot of fun. And we kind of went into curse mode last year to do the When We Were Young festival, and then we did one show in Orange County, and then went back into sort of regular mode, and have been writing music as well. So it's kind of fun now to be jumping back into a bit of a curse mode.
That's interesting that you're saying mode. So you feel like you've got two sort of different kind of parallel modes going. One for your latest songwriting and your recent releases, and then does it feel like you guys are switching into a different kind of mode when you're playing that material, or
It's just a
what?
different bit
Mm,
of focus, I think. You know what I mean? I mean, when we're playing normal shows, it's a lot of the same kind of songs we play a lot of the time, and newer material that we're kind of that are more in the in the front of our brain. And with
mm,
the first stuff, quite obviously, it's focused on one record. We had to definitely dig last year and kind of relearn a lot of stuff, and obviously with myself and Porter taking over a lot of the screaming vocals, kind of figure out how we were going to approach that in the best way
mm.
possible, and just make it so that the whole show sort of made sense and was great. And it's definitely it's just a different type of focus. Really, you're just kind of putting. I feel like there's a little bit more pressure when you're doing an album because you want to make sure that it's, everything that people remember. You know what I mean? You want to
Mm.
make sure that it's just as good as they remembered it. So it's like I think there's just a little bit more focus and a little bit more pressure when you're doing shows like this, and we just want to make it the right experience.
Do you feel like there's a like additional pressure? Uh, do you feel like a bit of that additional pressure is coming from, say, the fact that for a lot of people, this album is like a really key Atreyu album? It's like kind of a lot of people would say, I mean, when people think Atreyu, a lot of people probably gravitate to the curse. Do you feel like there's a bit of pressure there in terms of people's expectations in seeing it being played live?
For sure. I mean, and for us, it's like we just wanted to make sure that what people are seeing now is like even better than it was then. You know what I mean? Because the
Yeah,
reality
nice.
is we've all grown as performers, we've all grown as musicians and all these things. So it's like wrapping our heads around these songs again. It's like how do we keep the same feeling, but just make sure that it's firing on all cylinders, like never
Mm,
before. Because I mean, it's like
mm,
unless you're gonna really dig into these things and do these kind of like album plays, if you're not gonna really dig into it and give it the full gusto, I don't think there's any point. So for us,
mhm.
it's not it's just internal pressure to want to do it justice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's a good sign too, because I
Yeah.
think it can be, I wouldn't say so much easy, but sometimes I think maybe people, when they hear, oh, live show, they're playing an old album, oh, okay, it's going to be a bit by the numbers, but it sounds like you guys are actually, wanting to put a bit of extra TLC into it to make sure that it's the experience that matches up with the curse.
For sure, absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely.
And in terms of, so you've been a long-standing member of the band, and the curse, I can't believe it was 20 years. I literally remember. I'll sidetrack on a tangent for a bit here. 20
Hmm.
years ago, I'm pretty sure I was a little zit-faced teenager buying Metal Hammer CDs, and I got stoked when I heard something off the curse off one of the Metal Hammer CDs, and completely different environment these days. Like, so much has changed in that last 20 years. So it must feel I'm thinking it must feel a bit interesting for you guys to be touring with this album too, because back in 2005, like mid 2000s, we weren't as, say, as digitized and as always online. Like, it's a very different context that you guys are bringing the album performance to.
For
What
sure.
do, what are your kind of general thoughts on how the metalcore scene has evolved? Like, it's a pretty huge and broad question, but I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are on the state of the metalcore scene, some of the changes you've noticed between now and then.
I feel like for a while, I mean, and we were included in this too. There was that sort of door that opened to metal and metalcore, whatever, hardcore. That door that opened to like the radio world,
Mm,
and like the metalcore scene just kind of became like started getting more exposed to that, and then sort of like the active rock radio genre sort of just became the home for metalcore. You know what I mean?
mm.
And you have, where back in the day, on the radio, you would hear, maybe it was Stained and Shinedown and Breaking Benjamin and Papa Roach. Now
Mm,
it's all those bands, but it's also us and Memphis May Fire and Wage War and Bad Omens and all these things. So it's like it became much more of a home, and I find that even now, more recently, a lot of the bands, are still played on the radio, but it's almost like metalcore is almost trying to go back to the place where it's scary again, which is,
mm.
it's like, I think it just happens with any sort of music in general. It's just like everyone's looking for the newest and next extreme,
Yeah.
and it's like enter, Slaughter to Prevail and enter Knocked Loose and all these stuff. And it's like, there's so many bands these days that make anything that we've ever made that was once looked at as shocking, it makes it look like kids music. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's one of
Yeah.
those things where it's like everything just kind of ebbs and flows. But I think for a long time, metalcore just kind of took its seat at the radio table, and then I think
Mm.
it's still there. But I think a lot of bands are just kind of wanting to just be more dangerous again.
Yeah, yeah, and I think on that note, for me as a very much a metalcore enjoyer, I think I've noticed similar. Like, it's almost like the temperature I'm sort of taking at the moment is that real kind of caustic '90s, late '90s, early 2000s sort of
Mhm.
that metalcore with a bit of grit is starting to come
Yeah,
back in a big way.
for
Yeah.
sure. I think
Mm,
it just goes with the territory of like what people get so into and used to something, and then they get sick of it. So it's like
mm,
I think what people have been so into and have become sort of accustomed to in heavy music in general is sort of like this really polished, really like shined up, produced version of music. And then I think people are sick of it, so they want that kind of grit back. They want
mm.
the little bit of humanity back in their music or the way they listen to music, and it just always goes up and down and back and forth, and will
Yeah.
be that way forever. Everything always becomes cool again.
Yeah, and I'm glad it is cool again. It's a good thing to be cool again.
Yes.
Mm. And from where things are at the moment in the state of the metalcore scene, where do you guys kind of see yourselves amongst all that?
I mean, I think that there's no getting around the fact that we are part of that scene, and we always have been. There's
Mm,
no getting around that. I think that we sort of have always tried to sort of create our own path,
mm,
and not on. sort of on purpose, but just like tried to maybe not do what everyone was also doing.
Yeah.
And I think over the years that's sort of like even more so been a motivation of ours is like what is not happening.
Mm,
Like just because that's kind of where I think where what got us in a successful position in the first place is we just didn't sound like anybody. Um, but I think that I think the scene is just growing. It's good for any of these really extreme bands that are getting humongous, like I said, like Slaughter or Knocked Loose, or you have all these bands that are just killing it. Even when you have like hardcore bands like Speed and like all this stuff like this, where
mm.
it's like doing like big numbers and like really crushing and like making an imprint. It's just better for everyone. It's better for the genre. It's better for the scene. It just makes all of it bigger. So it's kind of cool that there's sort of a limelight being shown on heavy music in general right now.
Mm, mm. And one of the big things that's happened between, one of the big things that's happened, got to state the obvious, one in the 2020s, we've also had the pandemic, and I
Hmm.
feel like a bit of a broken record, but I've got a bit of a pet theory that I think a lot of people share in that the pandemic and being in lockdown for a good couple of, almost couple of years in a lot of places,
Yeah.
that's driven a bit of a renewed thirst and a renewed appetite for going to shows. Do you guys feel like that's aligned with your experience in the last few years with doing shows?
I think so. I mean, yeah, there was definitely that kind of like initial outpour of like you could see that people were more excited just to be out and be
Mm,
doing this again. And but it's I think it still shows. I think people, I mean, it's just in human nature to like let feelings fade. So
yeah,
even though like people's lives were taken away from them for years almost, it's like I feel like at this point people have just forgotten
yeah, yeah,
that even existed. But I mean, there was definitely an air of excitement and I think it's still there with some people, but I think people are just getting excited about different genres of music now
yeah,
because they're of the resurgence of so many different kind of little corners of the world. I mean, like it was like it started with the whole fucking emo thing and like emo night and all that being huge, and then the
yeah,
sort of natural progression after that is like the metalcore world and like the metal scene, all that stuff too. So it's like I think people are just excited about things that remind them of what their youth, or if they're young themselves, it reminds them of like what their older brother or sister thought was cool when they were a kid. You know
yeah.
what I mean? It's parents getting their kids into the shit that they like. So like there's just this whole sort of youthful, energized vibe around our whole
Mm.
music scene right now, which is cool.
And in terms of your live shows, have you seen that reflected amongst the audience? Like in terms
Yeah.
of, I'm sure there's a lot of folks around my age, like mid-30s, millennials,
Yeah,
that kind of thing. But are you seeing like a bit of a younger contingent still coming to shows, Atreyu
for
shows?
sure. Our
Mm,
shows are wild. Like there's really the whole spectrum. I mean, it's like there are literally like 6, 7, 8 year olds at our shows that come with their parents. There are teenagers. There are 20s and 30s. There's like 60 year olds at our shows. It's kind of
mm,
wild.
mm.
So it really runs the whole spectrum of age. But there is a lot. I think there's a lot of just that. Like I said, sort of we call it like big brother syndrome. It's like your older brother got you into a Atreyu, and now you're finally old enough to go to a show and be able to afford a concert ticket and make decisions for yourself. So it's like you're going and enjoying that stuff that like you grew up on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know
Yeah.
how successful I'll be in dragging my little sister along to an Atreyu show, but I could always try.
Hey, always worth a shot.
That's it, man. That's it, absolutely. And speaking of shows in Australia, so you guys have been to Australia before,
Yeah, a lot.
and yeah, what are some of your favorite kind of memories or experiences of touring Australia in the past?
And we've always had such a positive experience. Australia has always sort of felt like a second home to us. Like it's
Mm.
it's essentially Southern California with nicer people and
Take
and
that,
and better
SoCal.
beaches. But yeah, I mean, we always have a good time. I mean, the energy of Australian shows is always wild.
Yeah.
Especially for stuff like this, it's like this whole tour is going to be sold out, a month before we even step foot in the country. So
Mm.
we're definitely looking forward to that type of energy. But we've really always seen that in Australia. It's been the one place in the world that's just always shown so much love, and we genuinely have a phenomenal time being there. So I mean, that's why we're back so soon. We literally were in Australia, what, last December, I think,
Yeah,
or
it
maybe,
wasn't too
yeah,
long ago.
it was like a
Yeah.
year ago. So we're back
Yeah.
already.
You just can't wait to get back.
I know. I just need some fucking Tim Tams in my life.
Tim Tams and Vegemite. You'll
Oh,
be
I'll pass on the second one.
Yeah, look, it's a bit of a bridge too far for most people, and I
Our
think us
bass player
Aussies,
loves it.
we get it, we get
Yeah,
it.
our bass
Yeah,
player loves it.
and so you recently toured South America.
Hmm.
You've been playing other shows, so you guys have been pretty busy, pretty productive on the touring circuit.
Hmm.
What sort of after 20 years in a band, because that's people just think of bands that they're an entity that exists. Well, yep, they're
Hmm.
there still, but there's a lot of stamina and motivation that needs to be involved.
Yeah.
What's kept you guys? What's kind of kept the stoke alive for you after? I mean, we're talking about the 20th year anniversary of the Curse. You guys have been around for quite a while,
Yeah.
since the late 90s, I believe.
Yes, 26 years this year.
Yep, 26 years. So I think a lot of people might still have you in their minds as like a young band. But 26 years, it's that's no small feat. What keeps you guys kind of, I guess, motivated to continue? And because it does sound like, if anything, you're playing just as many shows around
As we ever
now as
have.
you were 20 years ago. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I think that at this point in the game, we're just wanting to do things that make us happy. I think that all of us. I think one of the things is that we all just thoroughly enjoy being in this band. We enjoy each
Mm,
other, and we enjoy making music together. We enjoy playing shows together and hanging out with each other. Like we're best friends. So it's like that's a huge factor.
yeah.
And I think another part of it is that we have so much shit that we have not accomplished yet. Like we have so many things to check off the list, and it's like I think that keeps you hungry. You know what I mean? And I think that we're very confident in the mark that we've already left on the world, and I think
Yeah.
we're even more confident with the mark that's still to be left.
Mm.
So I think that that is a huge driving factor for us, and I think that that's why I think people will come see us live and almost maybe be kind of shocked that we've been a band or been around for as long as we have, because
Mm.
there's no sign of that on stage. Like what you see is joy. You know what I mean? You see
Yeah.
dudes that are having just as much fun now as we did when we were 16. You know what I mean? Arguably
Mm.
more fun now.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
but so it's like one of those things. It's just there's a lot of motivation there, and there's a lot of sort of like shit to prove still.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah,
You mentioned, and I'm not gonna make you unfurl a scroll, medieval cartoon style, and declare a decree, but you hinted at we still feel like we've got things left to do, like there's still things left to achieve.
yeah.
What are some examples of those sorts of things that you guys have as some goals at the moment?
I mean, there's still places we haven't played in the world. Like we just
Mm.
went to South America for the first time.
Yeah,
Like we
yeah.
want to spend more time in those territories and build a fan base like we have the rest of the world through. There's so many countries we've never been to.
Mm.
We've played clubs or big theaters and this and that. Like we want to be an arena band. Like we want
Yeah.
to be a band that comes to Australia and does arenas,
Mm.
comes to the UK and does arenas. Same in the States. Like we want to be headliners, and I think it's just kind of like it's funny. I did another interview before this, and one of the things we were saying, like he was like, when you came up, and was it difficult? I said, yeah, we essentially just kicked and screamed the whole time and didn't take no for an answer. And I think the only reason why we're still here is because we're still kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
So it's like there's just broader horizons. I think in life, every mountain you climb, you get to the top of that mountain, and there's accomplishment there, but it's only to realize that there's just a taller mountain. You
Mm,
know what I mean?
mm.
So I think our career is just essentially us climbing mountains, conquering things that we want to accomplish, but realizing once we got there that there's still, you know, bigger places to go.
Mm.
There's work to be done.
And it sounds like you're in kind of that perfect space. It's almost like you, to use some crappy visual metaphors, it's sort of like I feel like where you guys are right now, it's almost like you're on, not in terms of progress, but to me, the mind's eye visual feels like you, with this tour coming up, you've got a chance to kind of, you've just gotten to the peak. You've realized there's another peak up ahead. But this tour, I imagine, would give you guys the opportunity to kind of sit and reflect a bit and have a look at some of your successes too, especially, particularly the successes around like the influence of the curse, like all your material, but particularly this album with the tour. Do you feel like that's kind of where things are at too? With
For sure. I mean,
yeah.
it's made us reflect in the way that we sort of write and have been writing new music. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Not in a sense of looking back and trying to recreate something, because we've never been a band that's been interested in that. But
mm,
just sort of looking at what were some of the things that made us special at the beginning, and it was because we made our own road. We didn't really belong anywhere. There
mm,
was, our music had certain elements that were just undeniably us. It was heavy riffs, it was, guitar solos, it was
mm.
big, massive, almost pop choruses in like
Yep.
metal songs. So it's
Mm,
like, just like looking back at like what we think kind of was, what made us tick in the first place. And it's wild. I mean, the whole like the nostalgia thing with music right now is crazy, where there's a lot of these bands that are able to kind of go doing these anniversary tours and this and that. And like, we were supposed to do When We Were Young last year in October, and we booked one Curse show to warm up for those two shows, and it sold out faster than any show we've ever played in our entire lives. We sold more tickets faster than we ever have in our career, which gets us to
wow.
thinking. We're like, well, should we do more of these? And then it's like we book Australia and it's sold out a month before the tour starts. We're doing
Mm,
UK and Europe in the fall, and it's like we're already getting low ticket warnings for those shows that are 3 months away. Like we're
wow.
about to
Yeah.
announce the version in the States next week, and it's like, it's cool for us to be like, wow, this is like a real thing that's happening. So it really does give us a chance to kind of look back and also sort of like take us to a higher vantage point. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Because I mean, even
mm.
our last tour in Australia a year ago was one of the best selling tours we had done in a while in Australia.
Yeah.
And to come back basically a year later and have it be almost double, some of the rooms are 3 times as big. You know what I mean? So it's like
Mm,
you do get to actually, sit back and look at like the tangible growth and the tangible thing that's like actually happening. You know what I mean? It's kind of cool.
yeah. Well, it must be really exciting for you guys to have that, like, just have that continuation on your journey.
For
Um,
sure.
for those, I guess we've talked about having like a wide ranging audience.
Mhm.
For yourself, Brandon, as a vocalist and as a member of Atreyu, I think it's very cliche of me. I'm very much doing the rock journalist cliche to tie all the things up here, but the fact that there's a lot of like hungry and energetic bands out there, and coupled with the fact we're in a very different financial economic reality with
For
just
sure.
work and the music industry and that sort of thing, what kind of advice would you give? I think you've already kind of spoken to it via this interview, but for those young damn scene kids out there looking to start their own band, forge their own path, and continue on, what kind of words of advice or encouragement would you have for folks of all ages trying to start up their own similar band, or just trying to get into the scene in general with hardcore, metalcore, that kind of thing?
I think that it's very important, one, like I said earlier, to try and create your own path. There's literally zero point in modeling art after art that already exists. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying?
mm,
Not only does Bring Me the Horizon and Bad Omens exist already, but there's also 40 other bands that sound exactly like them. So there's
mm,
no need to do it again because it's
mm.
not going to be Bring Me or Bad Omens or Parkway or A Day to Remember or all the bands in our genre that are kind of killing. Start just do something, do your own thing. Take Get a bunch of people with different influences and make music that sounds like a bunch of different influences.
Hell
I think
yeah.
it will take you further than you would expect. If you look at the greats in rock or metal history, it's been all the bands that weren't supposed to fucking make it. It's
Mm,
been all the ones that weren't supposed to exist that actually got the biggest. It's System of a Down, it's Korn, it's fucking even like Metallica, it's ACDC. Think about how
mm.
weird ACDC sounds. Think about, have you ever stepped back and said, what the fuck,
Yeah,
ACDC? Especially back in the day. This is the
yeah,
most shrill, gnarly
yeah.
vocalist of all time. Like it's like there's no reason that should have made it. There's no reason it should have
Mm,
existed, but they sounded like fucking ACDC. That's why. You know
yeah,
what I mean? So try to be yourself. And I think just don't break the word no in your vocabulary. The world's
yeah.
going to tell you no. People are going to tell you no a million times. They told us no. We got told no by every record label in the fucking world until one said yes, and that's all it took. You know,
Excellent.
so break your no button. If you
Break the
believe in
no
something,
button.
if you believe in
Yes.
something, then the answer is yes. But that's not to
Awesome.
say that you can just suck and
Yeah,
expect things to happen for you. You
yeah,
have to be great. You
yeah.
still have to be great.
It's that's an important caveat, isn't it? And look,
It
I
is.
think you guys are doing great, so you don't need to worry about that. So I will be happy to. I'll be amongst many folks who'll be seeing you guys at the Australian tour, and
Amazing.
be going home with a sore throat after belting my lungs out. And
Hell
I'll
yeah.
be driving to the shows like many of the fans with a smashed up no button.
Hell yeah. Fuck that.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the chat, Brandon. I really appreciate it because I know you've had a run of interviews. So,
For sure. No, it's all good, man. Thanks,
everyone
man.
will be looking forward to your tour of Australia. The lucky
Hell yeah.
ducks who
Let's
got it
cheers.
and got tickets.
We'll be there shortly. If you don't have tickets, it's fucking too late.
Yeah,
All
better check Tixel. Thanks so
right.
much, Brandon. You have a
Appreciate
great
it.
rest of your day, yeah?
You too, man.
All right, take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.